JB. I hope we're all doing extremely well this evening. Thursday, February the 5th. We all know tomorrow is an important day for the club. 1958, the Munich disaster is the anniversary tomorrow. So look, we will get into that stuff tomorrow. But look, it's really important ahead of such an important event is to acknowledge all the important stuff. So look, tomorrow is going to be a day where we definitely need to go through that tomorrow. Also as well, look, the Michael Carrick press conference as well was a day early because of the anniversary tomorrow. So again, it's really important to note that as well. I'll come on to the press conference today, but look, it is the anniversary tomorrow, so it's it's important that we acknowledge that tomorrow. And again, I think the reason the show I'm going to lead on tonight is pretty much part and parcel of why I think tonight is important and why we talk about what we'll talk about today because of tomorrow. So let's go through all that stuff. Look, the first thing to say is get into this amazing community. Look, hands down, I know everybody says that their community is the best, but this community really is the best. Look, even if people don't like me, I would genuinely say, look, get in there with this community because people support each other on here. We all go through stuff, and look, people really do support each other on here. So my advice is get into the chat, even if you don't like me. As I've been told today, I'm irritating and people can't stand me, but that's all good because I don't care. Well, I do care. So look, be respectful to the community, be respectful to the moderators, be respectful to the chat, be respectful to yourselves as well, because I think people do themselves a disservice. Sometimes they come on to these sorts of shows and platforms and they almost get into a character of who they're not. You don't need to do that. You also don't need to be a fan of this club as well. Look, you can support a rival club. It's all good as well. Look, we don't mind the banter. We absolutely have no problem with the banter at all, as long as it's respectful. Banter is all good. Otherwise, the ban hammer comes out. I don't mind doing it. Neither do the moderators either. It's not something that we like to do. We do not want to ban anybody, but we absolutely will. Second of all, look, I'm not a dictator of this chat. I genuinely do read out your chats. This is why the ban hammer comes out, because I do read out your chats. And it's important that you can come to a place and you can read out your opinions. You get in your opinions. I will read them out. I won't read every single one out on the basis that some of them are not very nice. I will let the chat deal with that. But look, get in your thoughts. This is a late night show. This really is driven by you guys. There are some things I do want to talk about that I think are really important to discuss tonight. But yeah, look, get into the chat. Let me know what you've seen today. Let me know about the game. Tomorrow is a really important day. Obviously, if you don't know, it is the anniversary 1958, and we'll go through that tomorrow. And look, what has sparked tonight's show. Look, we did the Tottenham review show, and we went through that stuff early. I purposely went through it earlier this week because of tomorrow. I think tomorrow is one of those things where I'm going to find it really difficult to do a show tomorrow, on the basis that tomorrow shouldn't be about the Glazers, shouldn't be about all this stuff, but tonight is going to be about that. So look, where do we start? Look, get into the chat. Let me know about whatever it is tonight. So I think the chat is up. Yeah, I think so. So let's get through it. So as we've spoken about before on this channel, one of the things that we've spoken about many times, and I've been saying this for the longest time, about money situation. I've gone over this multiple times. We've spoken about this, how Q1, how the end of year was a loss. Q1, it was a loss, and that's the reason why we're not going to sign players. It all makes complete sense. And then David Ornstein come out again. As we all know, David Ornstein is a mouthpiece of this club. Fabrizio Romano is a mouthpiece of this club as well. But whatever they say, Mickey says. Mickey749 says glory to Man United. Mickey, legend, my friend. So look, this has come out this week, right? We've been speaking about it on here. If Bruno retire, who can replace him? Look, Wanjiri, it's not about replacing. Look, I don't know how old you are, right? And the reason why I mention age, right, is not because, and just to let you know, I've got something to go through tonight, but this is your show, and I will answer your questions, but this is your show. The reason why I ask your age is because Bruno Fernandes leaving is not the end of the world. I'm very lucky. I'm from an area where I've seen better players than him retire. If Bruno Fernandes retires, I don't want to replace him. I would like not a like for like replacement. What I would like is I'd like a team. So I would like more than a Bruno. I'd like 7 Bruno Fernandeses. When I say that, I don't mean I want that personality. I want a whole team. So I don't just want to replace Bruno. I want to replace the culture. I don't want a team to revolve around a single player. I want a team to be a team. So I don't just want one world-class players and the rest of them are not great. I want a team full of leaders. They don't have to be world-class leaders. I would love a team of international world-class leaders. Not going to happen, right? But I want a team full of leaders. Bruno Fernandes is Bruno Fernandes. If he goes, in my view, it's not the end of the world. It's got nothing to do with him necessarily as a player. This is about players come and go. Bruno will be another player that's come and gone, and in 20 years' time, there'll be somebody else. You'll be screaming down the screens saying Bruno Fernandes was this amazing legend, this amazing player. And your children's children or kids will be saying, oh, you know, he was crap. Bruno Fernandes is going to be another player. I guess where I really want Bruno is like a Modric. And look, if he goes to Madrid, I don't blame him. You know, I don't blame him. You know, if Bruno wants to go and Madrid want to come in for him, you know, I won't blame him for going. So, you know, I don't disagree with that. I think Bruno Fernandes is a fascinating debate, which we'll have between now and the end of the season. Obviously, people have got their opinions. I've got mine, but that is where we are in it. But look, let's go back. So this week it has come out. You know, the previous 2 weeks we had signings, whatever else. Fabrizio's come out. I've done a video on Fabrizio today talking out of his arse, but that's my view. But you had Ornstein, and we all know Ornstein is the mouthpiece of this club. And Ornstein basically come out and said, look, in the summer months, there is no money. Now, we were all set to believe that there was Belaber money. There was some menu money. Nonsense, right? We were never in for some money. Now, I am leading up to something, but I do need to set the scene a little bit here because this all makes complete sense. There was never any Semenyo money. There's a reason why, and I got told months and months and months ago why there was going to be no signings at this club. And if you fast forward to today. Now, the Athletic has done a piece, and when I say to you guys, look at all the different pieces, right? Look at all the different bits of evidence, right? Look at all the different bits of United will always put out little bits and pieces. Follow the trail, right? Follow the trail of different stuff. Ornstein put out that don't expect massive arrivals in the summer months. And if you read the Athletic article today, it's all come out. It's all laid bare, and we're going to go through that now. So look, basically the Athletic have put it in this way. United are catastrophic issue on the basis that their commercial department are faced with basically a shortfall in sponsorship. Dino is in the house. Dino is the legend. Dino is in the house. I want to ask, is Carrick the manager we look for so long? Who would we replace him with? Just asking. Oh, look, lazy school student, welcome to the chat. Look, I get the question. I get it. I do get it. If you're asking me to tell you who I would go like for like, Mickey is in the house, right? If I was going to go a like for like, I wouldn't. But as you've asked me the question, who would I go like for? It would have to be a Cole Palmer. I think Cole Palmer is not like for like in terms of what Bruno Fernandes does. I think he gives you something different. I think he's very similar but different. I would go for Cole Palmer, but I wouldn't necessarily go and replace Bruno Fernandes and spend all of our money in one place. But look, it's such a difficult thing to do. But look, if you're asking me who would I replace like for like with, Cole Palmer, but my opinion, and again, look, guys, I this is your channel. Yeah, you give your opinions. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm here to absorb your opinions as well, by the way. My view is on it. If I was going to do it like for like, I would do a Cole Palmer. However, I'd want to do something different, and I want a team full of leaders as opposed to one player. But look, you guys have all got your views, and I will go back in it. I want to ask, is Carrick the manager we look for so long? Now, look, I think that's a fascinating question. It can only be answered. It can only be answered in time. That's the one thing. Wanjai, if you're asking me now, is Carrick the guy? I'm going to say to you categorically right now, no. If you're asking me, is Carrick the guy now? And if I had a magic wand to pick any coach, let me ask you the question. Right? Let me ask you the question. Right? If you had a magic wand and put your hand on your heart, if you could go into world football right now, have any coach, even and Carrick is your option as well. If you could go out and pick any coach in the whole of the world and bring him in tomorrow, who would you pick? If Carrick is your answer, great. Carrick wouldn't be my answer. Doesn't mean that Carrick isn't going to be a fantastic manager. Doesn't mean that Carrick isn't the right answer. After three games, is Carrick long term? I don't know. Is Carrick the guy for right now? Yes, he is. And the reason why Carrick is the right guy for now is because that is the choice that the club have made. So, long term, it's one of those questions I don't think that can be answered. I think you've got to make an opinion now, and I think you've got to make an educated guess now, and time will tell if you're right. So, for me, is Carrick the guy now? He is Mr. Right here, and I think Carrick is doing a fantastic job. But outside of that, that's a very, very difficult one to answer. You're better than Spurs. So Shane says, I'm a Spurs fan, and we are so fucked. Look, Shane. I don't know, mate. Mate. I appreciate the comment, buddy. Obviously Spurs fans. Peter has called me a dickhead. That's not very nice, is it, mate? Peter, that is not very nice. I don't really know what you want me to do with that, Peter. I don't know if you're having a bad evening. I don't know if you're having a bad night, mate. Look, if you was my wife, then you'd have a valid point, right? But Pete, at least get to know me a bit first. And then if you know me and you still think I am a dickhead, that's perfectly fine, mate. It's perfectly fine. But Pete, you're coming in strong. You're coming in strong with your comment. I do admire that. You're coming in strong. mate, look, just chill. Just chill. Like, stay for like half an hour. And if you still think that I'm a dickhead, mate, then look, it's free. You've lost nothing. That's all in you, buddy. Shane, I don't think Spurs are fucked. The last couple of seasons, Spurs have done well. I just think it depends for me, Shane. It depends for me, Shane, what Spurs turn up. Right? It completely depends for me what Spurs turn up. If Spurs are going to do a Spursy, you lose. But if you get in the second half City Spurs, it's game on, mate. I think Shane's going to be close. I think it's going to be very, 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 very close. And I'm hoping, Shane, that we can nick it, mate. But look, let's see. How much is Fernandes leaving for? I think if Fernandes leaves, well, his price is 57.25 million. I believe around that range. I think if he does leave, it's going to be in and around that 55 million pound mark. Peter, we all know what Peter thinks of me. Thanks, Peter. Carrying the ball is fun to watch, but we need a plan B. Strategy not working. Can Alonso? No, mate. I don't think Xavi Alonso, mate. He can't do it, buddy. Look, he can't do it. He could do it. Will he be accepted? I don't think he will be. Look, that is just my view. I just don't think he will be. But look, so look, let's go through the financial stuff because I think it's really important because tomorrow is a really, really important day. And this feeds into the antithesis. This feeds into the complete opposite of what tomorrow means. So look, this has been reported in the Athletic today. So United, when they come over for Avram and Joel Glazer, when they came over for the meeting for the City game, things are not going well. So commercially, they are concerned. They have a task force because they're concerned of the shortfall in sponsorship income. Wavecutter says CR7 is looking at returning, and we should welcome him back. Wavecutter, mate, he is not coming back. Wavecutter, Cristiano, he's not coming back. He's not, buddy. Cristiano is not coming back in a million years, my friend. But look, I get it, buddy, but he's not coming back. Martin Dennison says that our last 6 games against Spurs, lost 2-0, we drew 2-2, lost 3-0, lost 4-3, lost 1-0, lost 1-0. Not good readings for Saturday. Definitely our bogey team. I don't like Ahmad. He's too many ego like a Garnacho. Martin, legend, my friend. Thank you, buddy. You beat me to it. You beat me to it, buddy. Yeah, look, I think those of the confidence is high, right? I get it, and these last 3 weeks have been bloody fantastic, right? I'm not fooled by this team. I'm not fooled by the performances, but it's been good, right? Fulham, I think, should be a wake-up call for some people. But look, I'm with Martin's right. I spoke about this when we were looking at form and we were trying to build form, and then we played Forest and Spurs, and then that form seemed to dip. Now we beat City, Arsenal, Fulham we beat, but we dropped down a level. Are we going to go back up a level against Spurs, or are we going to go down? And Martin is right. We cannot take this. We cannot take our foot off the pedal in this game. And look, I think it's going to be a close game. I think Carrick knows it as well. I will go over the presser from him as well. With nothing a lot to say in that, but look, we will talk about it as well. Look, Spurs are a good team. Spurs are Spursy. We all know about Spurs, but don't let their league position fool you into a false sense of security, because Spurs on their day can beat anybody. So, Martin, I think I would read that comment. I think Martin has definitely put it into perspective. I don't like Ahmad. He's too many ego like a Garnacho. 1J, mate. Again, I don't know where you get that opinion from, mate. But again, look, that's your view. I don't share the view. I've listened to Ahmad speak quite a few times. Mate, he really isn't like in my view. I mean, the guy's played for Rangers, Sunderland. He's been farmed out. So Ahmad has been farmed out to 2 or 3 teams. Ahmad was on the bench for such a long time. He didn't moan, didn't whinge, didn't complain, and he's now probably one of our best players. Garnacho didn't play in one game and he threw his toys out of the pram. But one day, look, I don't know where you get that impression from. I'm not here to change your mind. I've got a slightly different impression of Ahmad. I actually think Ahmad is a very respectful boy, and I really like him. Are you looking at him for the summer to help out with Shesko? No, mate. I Cristiano, not for me. When I said we can swap Ahmad for Esteval, I don't think we could. I don't think Chelsea would want to. Would I swap Ahmad for Esteval? Not right now. And I shall tell you the reason for why I wouldn't do it. It's because I think we're looking at Premier League proven players. Esteval, there is no question, he's got the potential to be a fantastic player. Ahmad is a fantastic player now, so I wouldn't. But I do get it. I do get why you would. Sadina says, it will be a cagey game. I think if we score first, we win, but will be another end-to-end game. You lot need to get that man a haircut. I really couldn't care about his haircut, buddy. We need to win for title for Casemiro, mate. We're not winning the title, buddy. Look, Wavecut. The one thing, Wavecut has been on the channel now for quite some time, right? What I absolutely love, mate, is I love your positivity. I just as you get people with an opinion that is like wildly towards the Glazers or wildly, I'm trying to stay somewhere in between, like the middle, right? But Wavecutter, mate, I love it. I love the fact you're talking about a title. I love the fact that you're, I love it. I do. Shubnam says, Stiller, Belieber, Palmer, Leao, Theo Hernandez should play for United next season to win the Premier League, all positions covered. Shubnam, I am going to go through this. And Shubnam, I want you to hold on to that comment because I'm gonna go through what is catastrophic news. It is catastrophic. But look, hi JB. My prediction is number 4 Tottenham, 14. The number that is dominating is 4-1 to United, says Eric. I like it. Ahmad is a better player. I know, but Ahmad in the field is too many egos. Thanks, JB. You are the best with presenting about us. Look, mate, look, I'm only as good, right, as you guys, right? Like, we don't always agree on things, right? But I'll always say this, is that it's really important for you guys to have your views. And do you know what? If we all had the same opinions, it would be boring, right? I love the fact you guys have such different opinions, and Wave Cat, mate, your opinions, mate, you make me smile. You do, and I mean that in a very respectful way as well. So look, let's get through the financials, and I wanted to go back up to Shubnam's comment, right? Like Stiller, Belieber, Palmer, Leao. I don't disagree with any of those players, right? I don't, right? I just don't. Listen to what I've got to say next and be scared. So, the Athletic have reported that United are concerned about the commercial stuff. Matthew says, yo, I'm Bob. Matthew, welcome. Bob, legend. Look, mate, the more, the merrier, Bob. Look, get in your opinions. People give me their opinions about me. I've already been called a dickhead tonight, which I think is strong. I think somebody's coming strong there. But look, it's all good. So there is a shortfall. So the reason why the Glazers came over now, the Glazers have the Exco, right? And I promise you, just bear with me on this. So the Glazers have the Exco every single year, and basically it's a meeting of the board to talk about financial results, commercial, all that sort of stuff. I will come back to Casemiro. I'll go through this and then I will come back on that. And again, this will determine Casemiro and all the other bits and pieces as well. So they've come over, and one of the major concerns, and we all know the only time the Glazer. Now, I changed my name. I used to be Bob. I was a Liverpool fan. Do you remember me, Bob? Yes, of course I do, buddy. Look, give it up for Matthew Bob in the chat. Liverpool fans, look, as I'll always say on this, Liverpool fans always get respect from me on here, just because they are rivals, are unmatched in terms of us two and other teams. So Liverpool fans always have my respect, and banter is welcome. Of course it is. So the only time that you all know that you should be concerned when the Glazers are overdoing something at this club, because you know that there's a money issue. Unlike vultures round a carcass, like flies round shit, the Glazers came over, and the Glazers are here because there is a shortfall. Henderson, legends, finally great to be here. Henderson, you are a legend. So the Glazers are over. Why is it catastrophic? In that case, new owners is the only solution. And just listen to this. I promise you, right? The reason why it's so catastrophic, and it is, and I don't know why more people are not jumping on this tonight. It is catastrophic. So you need to bear in mind what we've spoken about before. The end of the last financial year, we made a £34 million loss, £35 million loss. In Q1, we ended up losing between another 13 to 16. So let's round that up to a nice £50 million loss. That is what we've made. We are projected the end of the season, because of no European football going out early in all the cup competitions. We are projected to lose another 60 to 90 million. I would say let's call it 80 million, right? 50 to 80, that's 130 million pounds loss. Now, what has come out additionally today, so United are expecting an additional 24 million pound loss, on the basis that at the moment the training kit how to talk to play. So Tazos, the training kit sponsor, after this season are gone, and we normally have a shirt sleeve sponsor. Now look, I know that may not seem a big thing, but between the training kit sponsor and the sleeve sponsor, United are going to lose 24 million pounds. So take that 130 million pounds, it could be more, by the way. Add into that additionally an extra 24 million pounds loss. We're somewhere at the moment floating around 164 million pounds loss. And this is not fictitious. This is facts. Now, in addition to that, is this. Now, I knew that this was the case. I knew that we signed a deal with Adidas, right? We signed a deal with them in 2015, and there was a clause inserted that said, if we don't qualify for the Champions League for 2 seasons in a row, we lose 30%. That was renegotiated with them 2 years ago or last year. That basically says for every 2 seasons we are not in there, we don't lose 30%. We now lose £10 million a year. It kicks in this year. So not only are we going to lose revenue from commercial operations, also don't forget these are not predictions. These are facts. We also need to consider that the longer we're not in the Champions League, we're not commercial. We're not a viable or a positive company for somebody to sponsor, right? They'd rather go to a Liverpool, a City, an Arsenal, right? Because of what we're seeing now, because of lack of success, poor spending on the pitch, going into next season as a handicap before we even get into the Champions League, we are looking round about, and this isn't a case of it's not going to happen. We are factually going to be in and around between 120 to £160 million. Pete Master says, "What's up, JB?" Hello, Pete. Hello, Pete. There's Pete. There he is. Yes, Pete, legend. Then do tours to get money, and that will unsell Brunner to make the 120. Sir Jim leveraged another 100 mil off the banks last summer. But that goes all towards debt, buddy. Look, it is catastrophic. If we don't get Champions League this season, if we don't get Champions League this season, and look, Pete, you're right. He leveraged a bunch of money, right? I get that completely. That was used. That was the credit facility, right? But the problem is, Pete, with that, and this is the major issue here, right? Is that whilst yes, you can repay the credit facility, I get that, right? But we made a loss last year. So Pete, when you're paying, and are there any academy? Well, it looks like we're going to do that, Pete. So the problem is, and look, Pete has raised a fantastic point there, right? We try to clear that credit facility down every single season, right? But the problem is now is that the credit facility is so high, we can pay it off, but the amount of money that let's just say, for example, we need to pay to break even each season. We need to pay, I don't know, 150 million pounds off, right, to break even. So it's like when you pay your credit card off, you've got a minimum payment, right? Let's just say that it's like 100 quid, and if you don't pay it, you get penalised on it. Let's just say our minimum payback is 150 million. At the moment, us paying that back is losing us money. So not only do we now have, not only can we not afford the minimum payment for the credit facility for the players every year, we now got to take on more debt because of the revenue that we've lost. Shirt sleeve sponsor that we've lost. We've fallen now 8th into the money list. It is catastrophic. I cannot express this enough tonight. I cannot express this enough. This athletic, this article that has come out today, and we've been speaking about this for a couple of weeks now. It is catastrophic. And the Athletic, it is there in black and white. It absolutely it corroborates David Ornstein. If you listen to David Ornstein talking yesterday, the day before, talking about don't expect massive players in the summer. This is why, people. So look, this is why. So let me get through the chats and we can. Jason says United, a Goldbridge fan. Look, mate, I am not. Look, I don't know Goldbridge. I don't watch the channel. I'm not a Goldbridge fan. I'm not opposed to Goldbridge. Jason, I don't have an opinion. I don't, mate. I just don't. I don't watch him. Never have really. I know. Look, everybody knows who he is. You can't do this and not be aware of certain people, right? I don't know Goldbridge. I don't watch his stuff. I'm not opposed to him. I'm not for him. I really just do not like have an opinion on it. But let me go through your chats and look, get into your opinions. How do you feel tonight about hearing the fact that factually we're going to lose somewhere between 130 to 160 million pounds before the summer's even started, right? Even if we pay off some of the credit facility, we're still going to lose money. So I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to know, do you think that we're going to be okay? Do you think, look, it's not as bad as I'm saying it is? What do we do? What do we do? Who do we sell? And look, I know you guys have already started in that, but let me go through some of that already. Eric says, if De Ligt is fit when subbing Casemiro, push Lucha to number 6 and bring De Ligt. Centre back Maguire then should not sub Cunha. That way United will remain solid. If that's long term, Eric, that's not something that I would like to see. Lucha is not a number 6, but if it gets us through this season, I think we've got to think about different stuff. This is water, by the way. So this is water, by the way. Shalom says, in that case, new owners is the only solution. How to talk to players, sell to buy summer, even if you get... And Dino, I believe it is, mate. I believe this is going to be a sell to buy summer, irrespective of Champions League money. This club will not spend money this summer. It can't spend money this summer. It's going to have a limited budget. And I think we're going to be expected to go into the Champions League with this squad and 1 or 2 additions. Henson says you'd assume that they'd get new sponsors, but whether the money is the same is unknown. And Henderson, look, exactly that. But also, I think for the first time, I think we need to consider the prospect. Well, we don't have to, but we need to consider the prospect that all of the signings that maybe would sign a shirt sponsor, are they going to other clubs? Because this is now for the first time that I don't think that we've experienced it. And I'll give you my comeback to fans, including this season to rival fans, was always ha ha ha, we're shit. But ha ha ha, we're still one of the richest clubs in the world, right? People, that argument is dying. We are seeing, not only are we going to be a failure on the pitch, as many predicted many years ago, many people predicted it's only going to be a matter of time before these Glazers drag us down. And what we're seeing now, and this is so, the timing of this, I think, is pertinent, because tomorrow is about remembering people who died playing for this club. No, we're not talking about money. We're talking about people who loved this club, who played for this club, who thought it was an honour to play for this club, and died playing for this club. They didn't die for money. They died because of the honour of playing for this club. This club was on its arse. This club was on its knees. This club was on its arse. Not because it was going out of business, but because something bigger than football happened. Something huge happened. And when you pretty much lose a vast majority of your club, or you then have to rebuild. And now we're at a situation, we're at a precipice now, whereby something similar is happening, but it's happening in a more disgusting way. This club and again, I think people tend to bury their heads in the sand. I think a cataclysm could be coming. This was foretold many years ago. I've been saying this for such a long time. Eventually, the money will run out. Commercially, United have always been good, but it can only go for so long. We're a failure on the pitch, and guess what's happening now? We're becoming a failure off of it. So the one thing that United and the Glazers could always pinpoint to, and even fans, even me, I could always live in the safety that United commercially were very good, and that would shelter some of the storm. That commercial aspect is now starting to die. We're seeing it. We're dropping down and down the money list. Income from the commercial side has dropped. We're getting penalised by a shirt sponsor. Being penalised by a shirt sponsor because we're not getting into the Champions League. We're going to lose £10 million a season. Every season. So if we don't get into the Champions League, so let me just tell you the scale of this. So our shirt sponsor, if we don't get into the Champions League, let's just say, for example, Liverpool get into the Champions League, right? They'll make £100 million just for going into the Champions League. If we don't get in there, not only do Liverpool get £100 million more, we actually lose 10 million. So in effect, we are £110 million worse off a season. That's without less home games. That's without less sponsorship. So what we could start seeing, every season we're not in the Champions League, whoever finishes beyond us, you're probably talking £150 million a season better off than us. This is the reality of the situation, and it's again, in a week where we should be talking about football, this stuff comes up, and look, this has been put out there all week by David Ornstein. This has now been put out by the Athletic. This club is in financial issues, and it's told you this week. It has told you this week that there are going to be hardly any signings this week. It is catastrophic. Let's have a little look. Sherman says they'll do tours to get the money. Look, Sherman, to do tours, look, for basically, if you think about it, right, for us to spend £300 million, no, in fact, for us to spend £150 million, right, we have to make 300, because we've got to make 150 to pay off the debt, or the debt that we've made now, and then you need to find 150 million to spend on players. We need a Saudi prince. Are there any academy players like Shea Lacey? I mean, look, Shea Lacey for me. I mean, if we're selling people like that, Pete, and again, I'm not saying that you would do it. I think the moment that we start to sell those players, we're screwed. Sherman says we need the old money. Only that can fix Glenius or the poorest owners ever. They're not. They just don't want to spend money. United Stadium is outdated. We need a renovation. 1J. It is, mate. It is. But they can't afford to do it. What do you reckon the rate is on the debt? Jesus Christ. I know it's roughly about, I don't know. Let's find out. Let us find out. What rate does Man United pay on the debt? Let's have a look. on bloody hell, pay on the repayment of debt. Let's have a look. It doesn't give me a figure, but I know it's roughly about £60 million a year. I think it's something along those lines. So whatever that is, I don't know what that is. I'd have to look at that, but I reckon that the rate is higher. You know, and obviously don't forget the credit facility as well. So the thing is as well, it's not only the debt. It's not only the debt on the money that they use to buy the club. It's the credit card interest as well. They'll sell Mount and Bruno at 150 to Saudi. Mason Mount isn't going anywhere. Look, Shubnam, we had a chance to get rid of Bruno Fernandes last season for 100 million, right? In fact, the Saudis said, name your price, right? The Saudis are not stupid. The Saudis are not ridiculous. Bruno Fernandes, the beginning of next season, will have 1 year left on his contract. Bruno Fernandes, the Saudis will not come in for that deal because they'll just wait a year and they'll get him for free. That £100 million to Saudi is gone. We took a chance, we missed, we failed. That's gone. Mason Mount is not going anywhere. Mason Mount this season, by the way, has had 7 injuries. No one's buying Mason Mount this season. I don't even class Mason Mount as a full-time player. No one's buying. Look, Shabnam, I would love you to be right. I'd love you to be 100% right. I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. Mount's worth 30 months. JB, could we not get sanctions for coercive loss by FFP? Now, Dino, interestingly enough, Dino will get away with it. Will get away with it for 2 reasons. One, under the old FFP, United have 2 companies. So there's one called Red Football, which is in the Cayman Islands, and then there's the United Stock Exchange. So for FFP purposes, we were always okay because of the way we manipulated those accounts. And I believe if FFP was still in place, and this is a key point here, if FFP was still in place, we'd probably be in the shit. But FFP doesn't exist anymore. So what's going to happen is the squad cost rules are going to come in from this year. So as of now, FFP does not exist. United have got 1 year to get their house in order. So basically, I'll have to go back over the rules. I did do a show on the squad cost rules. But with squad cost rules this season, it basically means that United have got basically a free year to get their house in order. So FFP no longer exists, lucky for us. So as of next season, United have got 1 year, effectively, to they could spend whatever they like next year. So they've got this new salary squad cap thing that comes in this year. So in terms of that, United are very, very lucky as well because they're not going to go over FFP. And if you notice the conversations this year, nobody's mentioned FFP because FFP has now gone. The only thing that we will need to consider though is you have the Premier League, the salary squad cap, but you also have the European one as well. So if we get to the Champions League, we need to make sure that our salary squad cap is European compliant as well. Poor Jim. Look, Shubnam, Sir Jim Radcliffe can do one. Smith says, "Hi. Do we have a chance? Do we have a chance to make some signings?" Look, Smith, will we make signings? Yes. Yes, we will. Yes. Will we make signings? Yes, we will. But the problem is that we've all been not. When I say us, I don't mean me or you. I just mean this club as a whole. The fan base has been told, and we've been, and again, this is what annoys the shit out of me, right? The rhetoric by this club up until this point has always been Stiller, Belabor, and Anderson, a Walton. We're looking at 2, right? With this news, could we get 2 at a push? But we would need to sell Rashford. Casemiro's wages are going to be saved, but it's not going to be like hundreds of millions of pounds. The money that we'll save for Casemiro is going to be £13 million a season, I think, or a little bit more than that, right? That basically covers the money that we've just lost on the shirt deals, right? Rashford going. If Rashford goes, that brings you in some money. Højlund going brings you in some money. Onana going may bring you in some money. We're going to have to sell to buy. So, Smith, do I think we'll make signings? Yes, I do. Do I think we'll sign one of our targets? Yes, I do. Do I think we'll sign 2 of those targets? No, I don't. At this point in time, I think if we don't get Champions League football, we get some sort of European, I think that we will make 2 signings. And I think one of the reasons why Carrick, they want to retain him is because they know that the next coach is going to have to work with this set of players. They're going to have to work with a Luke Shaw, a broken Mason Mount, Maguire again. That is where we are. But do I think we'll make a signing or 2? Yes, I do. I don't. It's not going to be this summer, And again, I don't mean to call out channels, and I'm not going to call them out. But these are the same channels, right, bigger than mine, who was saying we're gonna sell 5 players, we're gonna buy 5 players, we're gonna sell 10 players, and we're gonna buy 10 players. And this was October time. What a load of shit. Like, I've never prescribed to that. That was never going to happen. If you look at the even if you just look at the contracts of players, that was never that would never happen. And now look at you now. Look at it now. The shit and the bollocks you were trying to spin, we're going to sell and buy 5 and all that shit. Look at it now, because it's so obvious. We made a loss at the end of the financial year. That tells you everything that you need to know. Even with all the sacking of the dinner ladies, the postmen, the post room people, cutting free meals for youth players, not buying them new socks, making them take their kit home to wash their kit. All of these little penny pinching savings haven't worked. And they're not going to work because, Sir Jim, this isn't a little business. This isn't a business. This is a football team. You're going to hemorrhage cash unless you are successful on that pitch. As you are finding out now, you will hemorrhage cash, and you're hemorrhaging cash. Delict report still some way off. Yeah, I will get on to that as well. Willie says, support FC United of Manchester. Rashford is gone. How does this impact the new manager job search? I'll tell you. I'll give you my view, and you can tell me your view on Logan as well, mate. Yes, I was thinking about you last night, mate, in a purely platonic way, buddy. Willie, how does it impact the manager search? I shall tell you. And I'll give you my view, and you give me your view. How does having no money and being in even more debt impact the manager search? I'll tell you. Michael Carrick joining this club was premeditated in some respects. I don't think it was planned, but Michael Carrick doing well for these next 3 games, it will be a bit of luck, because I'm telling you now that if Michael Carrick gets us anywhere near a top 4, a top 5 race, he will be the manager, because there is no money for a manager. Imagine we're going to be at least £130 million extra loss, right? We're going to need to go and sign a manager who's going to want his players, who's going to want a coaching staff. There is no money. Even if we get Champions League, right? We're going to basically wash our face. We're going to basically just break even, right? And for us to make any sort of money the next season, we're going to have to finish in Champions League again, right? For us to do that, we're going to have to spend money. With this debt that's going to come, extra debt, they can't guarantee it. So I think Carrick is going to get the job, because a new coach of any... Look, if it's a choice between a De Zerbi, a Glasner and a Roller, give it to Carrick, because I do not want those guys. I want a world-class coach, world-class football people in charge, world-class coaches and players. If we're not going to do that, let Carrick have it. It's going to impact everything that we do this summer. They have taken a gamble. If we don't get Champions League this season, and I am specific on this, Champions League, we're fucked. And when I say that, I mean, if they are not looking to sell the club and they're looking to continue with this club, it is going to be catastrophic. You were definitely overperforming in the league. Logan says, City are going to Wembley. Look, Logan, mate, as I said before, buddy, I was thinking about you last night, obviously in a purely platonic way, buddy. Mate, look, fantastic, buddy. Liverpool, Man City on Sunday. RIP those legends. Exactly, Moss, and they are legends. Loving the shirt selection, buddy. Thanks, mate. Woke up 98 on the S64. Exactly. Absolute quality. City is blue. Logan says Blue Moon. I'm Arsenal. We're still top. So suck it, says Jim. I love it. I love it. You bold job, says Logan. Not this season. It's ours, says Jim. Gonna do the quad, says Jim. I hate City, says Willie. We're gonna get over the line. You'll drop points against Liverpool. Logan says, you're joking. We're gonna win the league. We're gonna win the league. City, City, City. 115 charges. I'll let you guys. The rate would be capped around 2.5%. I don't, mate. I'd have to look into it. You know, I should know the figure, but I don't know. But I'd have to look it up, mate. I have to look it up. I can't imagine the Glazers aren't well connected. I mean, yeah. You can tell how disastrous it is when other clubs dictate how much our players are worth. Thomas, we could price most clubs out. We have a European Cup already, says Jim. 89. The only trophy you have is second place. I'll let you guys do that. Do you think we should boycott America, the profile capital of mate? I'm not getting into that, buddy. Salah will be gone in the summer, I believe 80 to 100. Interesting. Mount could sell for. The thing is, Willie, with Mason Mount, we can't sell him because we wouldn't break even. Look, the problem is, Willie, what I would give you for Mason Mount, I would probably accept a bag of chips, but we can't. Look, with the amount of money that we're going to lose, right? We cannot sell Mason Mount for 20 million. We'd make another book loss. And Willie, whilst I do agree, I would agree with you. I would sell Mason Mount tomorrow. For the sheer figures involved, it's not going to work, mate. So Mason Mount is going to be here until he retires, which is probably going to be next week. And Willie, explain to me, buddy. Explain to me this. How is Mason Mount going to pass a medical? How is Mason Mount going to get put on those electrode things, right, and pass any sort of test? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. As Dino says, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. I'll let you guys argue that. I love the fact we got a City and an Arsenal fan arguing in our chat. It cracked me up. I love it. You guys crack on, guys. Arsenal is security. You mean the Glazer family are paying attention? Well, Moss, exactly, mate. Look, the Glazers are paying attention now because we're losing money. Like, the Glazers are paying attention because all they care about is the money. Now, look, I'll give you a plus side to this. Let me get through the chat, and I'll give you an upside to it all. Let's have a look. Jim's habit of ruining clubs. And Pete, look, when the thing that annoys me as well. I mean, look, Pete, there are many things that annoy me. A man of a certain age, and I find many things start to piss me off, right? But this was out there. Nice was out there. People already said Nice. People were calling Sir Jim the saviour of this club. He was going to come in, and within a year or two, he was going to buy out the club. Sir Jim was going to be the saviour of this club. Sir Jim was only here for profit. Sir Jim is only here for profit. That is what he is here for. And it was out there. And I'll tell you, instantaneously, I shall tell you how I know before the club was bought why Sir Jim was not the right person. Because anybody that does a strategic review of this club using a cycling guy, whatever his name is, David, whatever his name is, anybody that does a strategic review of this football club as a business, as an operation, even if you're looking at your assets, your squad, your cash flow, right? Anybody that does that sort of review comes back and still wants to buy the club. I question their sanity, because any business owner, unless the only way you do a strategic review of a club, you look at the finances, and I'm talking about the everyday operations, right? I'm talking about, if you look at this club, hemorrhages money, right? I'm talking about purely profit and loss, right? Any club, any owner that comes in and wants to make a business, and look, for those of you who don't care, but for those of you who do, and you give me your opinions on this, I'll tell you how I know fundamentally why Sir Jim is only here for the club to make money. It's because if you look at a business, its P&L, the balance sheet, and you look at our cash flow, and you're here to make cash, you wouldn't touch this club with a barge pole, right? You'd be just like, this club is going down the drain, right? However, why would you want to buy this club? What is it that makes this club what it is? For what makes this club so attractive to buy? Is it Fernandez? Is it the badge? Is it the history? For us, yes. But for Sir Jim, is it the badge? Is it the history? Is it the players? What is it? What makes this club, even though it's losing cash hand over fist and it's going to lose some more money, what is it? Are you a lifelong fan? No. What it is, it's the regeneration project. This club is going to be worth £10 billion. That is the reason when you do a strategic review of a club and you buy a business that is failing. If we look at it from a business and a commercial perspective, our commercial income was up. It was the highest that it ever was, but it was about to go down. It's not necessarily about the money you earn, it's about the money that you spend, and we're spending more cash. We are not a profitable business. If you were on the Dragon's Den and you were sat there and you were pitching to them saying, you know, this club is going to be the greatest club, and they were saying, well, what's your cash flow? How much do you make a year? And you'd say, I'll make £680 million a year, and they'd go, fantastic. And they'd go, yeah, but what's your net profit? And you'd go, well, actually, we lose 38 million. And they'd go, what the fuck? They'd go, so you're telling me you make over nearly £1 billion per year income? Well, it's not quite that, but you make £700 million a year, but yet you lose 30 million. What the fuck are you doing? Get out. Piss off. Go on. Piss off out of here. So you know, Sir Jim, you know, if you look at it from a purely business perspective, Sir Jim is here. He's not, and you could argue, well, he's here to save the club. He's here to save the club. If he was here to save the club, he'd buy the fucking club. He would buy the club and kick him out. I've done a video on this as well. Sir Jim cannot afford to buy the club. He can't afford to buy the club. Inos can't afford to buy the club. So the reason why Sir Jim is here, the reason why they're going through this restructuring, is because their big hope is breaking ground and making £10 billion. And that is what Sir Jim is here for. Let me go in here. £1.2 million to get number 2 only. Let's have a little look. Arsenal will. I'll let you guys at Arsenal about that. What about McKenna? Look, you know, the problem for me, Willie, is when we start talking about a coach, right? When we start talking about coaches, when City, when Pep leaves, City are not going to be going to look at I don't know, like any of the ex-players, you know, but you know, they're not going to go be looking at their ex-players. They're going to go and look at an Alonso. They're going to go and look at, you know, an Emery. They're going to go look at whoever they deem to be the best in classes. We're looking at Carrick. We're looking at McKenna. We might as well go look at Giggsy. Like, are we just going to go and look at ex-players? And that, for me, is the difference. I'm not opposed to McKenna, but why is McKenna best in class? Like, if we're like, I'm not opposed to ex-players, but if these ex-players are not best in class, then why are we going to go for them? Look, we might as well call ourselves Championship FC. Go down now. Let's have a little look, see what we're saying. I love that you've got Arsenal fans in here. Let's have a little look. Yes, Sechenko has gone. Do you think Sancho Bowie will upset the balance because the coach says he's going to play Shingo from number 6? What are you talking about? Who signed off 250k a week for Mount? You're right, Eddie. They should be shot. Even JB, a nice top, by the way. Yes, this is my 2000 and is it 1 or 2? I love this top. Realistically, the club Nikarutsu is in the house. Moss says realistically the club will look for players like Dorgu low cost. I'm not having a high spend. MFF says shut up already. That's a bit mean. That's a bit mean, isn't it? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to cry? Being told to shut up, just ask my mother, just ask my teachers. Telling me to shut up will just make me talk more. So, you know. Are we having a pre-match chat, JB? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. What now? Now, but I don't know before the game. I'm going to try and do the game at a good time. So I'm going to try to do the stream a bit earlier as well, Dino. I'll let you guys talk about Arsenal because I don't care. JB, who's your favourite goal? What was your favourite goal this month and favourite player? If I had to pick a goal this month, I'm going to be really, really boring. I'm going to be really, really boring, and I'll tell you why. Dorgu, right? Dorgu's goal, and not because it was just fantastic, right? And not because, you know, people are jumping on the Dorgu bandwagon. And what pisses me off again is that, you know, Dorgu plays 2 decent games, 3 games. He scored 2 goals in the last 5 matches, and then people are now saying that he is like the next big thing. This channel and this community, while people have been saying that Dorgu is absolutely dog shit and he shouldn't be getting played in this side, we've all said on here, give him time. Give Dorgu time. He's a young player. He needs time. You know, he's come into this side, and you know the manager's left. The manager played him in the wrong position. He's come into a really weak side with a weak leader, who I don't think is great. This club is in flux, and we've all said, you know, look, give him time. He's just a young guy. He needs time. And Dorgu's, and again, I will say this. This is, I think Amrin started this, to be fair to him. Moving Dorgu into that position, I think, was fantastic. He's continued. And my favourite goal is his goal, because it's not just the goal. It represents to me why this community and why many people say give young players a chance. You know, in this fan base, we were so eager to call somebody a failure or a flop. And what I like about this community the most is that we always say, look, let's give players a chance. He's a young player. And that was my favourite goal because of what it meant. And look, I don't do favourite players, right? I just don't. I'm 42 years old, right? I don't do favourite players. My favourite players been and gone, right? I would rephrase it as which player do I admire the most? Right now, the player that I admire the most right now has got to be Lisandro Martinez. You know, there are a couple of players for me that I admire, that I respect. Ahmad, I think Ahmad's been fantastic this season. I think Cunha's starting to come in as well. Look, I'm gonna give him props. I can't stand him as a captain. I can't stand him. But Fernandez, look, I've got to put a bit of respect on Fernandez on the basis that the guy's pretty much played all season. He was played in a number 8. He frustrates the hell out of me. I would still sell him. But Lisandro Martinez for me. Lisandro, you know, I can't even tell you, in my view, what an impact he's had. I didn't think he would even come back, to be fair. So I think Lisandro has had one of those seasons where his impact has been fantastic. So look, I would say I admire Lisandro probably the most right now, and Dorgu. Look, fire sales mean you sell no. Fire sales mean you sell no matter the price. You get Mount as healthy as you can. Look, Willie, I'm up for it, mate. I would, as I said before, there's probably not many players in this team that I would keep. You know, if it means we've got to sell, so be it. Jim, the Rat, Master, Splinter, don't forget. I'm suspicious of all sirs now after Jimmy Savile. I mean, Jimmy Savile. Look, this is that kind of show tonight where we can we can shift around. I'm not going to go too much on Jimmy because we all know that Sir doesn't mean that you're a good person. Guys, disgusting, petrol money, tax dodging, Chelsea striker Holden who enabled the Glazers and sacked. Look. Sir Jim, I've given you my opinion on Sir Jim and Inos and the Glazers many times. They are despicable human beings. But as I promised, I will give you an upside. I think there could be an upside to this. Like he says, Sir Jim is using the club like a hobby, same as Abramovich did at Chelsea and Mike Ashley at Geordies, and should copy the German model. The difference is, lucky is that at least Abramovich put in some money. Sir Jim has bought the club, put in a limited amount of money, at least for all of Abramovich's faults, and he's got many faults. At least he put money into the club. Rat is there for the stadium rebuild and the regeneration. How old is he? These people are violently hungry and for more money. Exactly. Company has to be Luis Enrique. Eric Cantona versus Sunderland. Have you ever seen the movie Final Scores about West Ham's old stadium under attack? I've not actually. That's what Epstein said. Give young players. Oh, elite! You're a terrible human being. I'm kidding. Look, I think there's an upside to this. There's an upside. It could be a catastrophic upside, but I think it's worth talking about the upside. Could we get into a situation whereby, let me ask you guys a question. So you guys ask me questions enough, right? I'm going to ask you guys a question. If it meant giving up on Champions League this season and possibly next season and taking a risk that the Glazers would leave, let me say I'll give you a 50-50 chance. I'll give you a 50-50 chance that if we don't get Champions League this season, the financial and I have to say this, the financial implications will be huge, and there'd be a 50-50 chance that the Glazers would have to sell and Ineos would have to sell. Would you take a 50% chance? So, and I'll tell you for why, because I do think that there's an upside. Harvey Chambers says, what do you think the score will be on Saturday? I think it will be a 2-1 Spurs. Harvey, I think it's going to be a very, very close game, mate. I think it's going to be a very, very, very close game. Ray Simpson, legend, says, hello. I hope you're doing extremely well, my friend. Lucky's got in there first. He went to Wolfsburg. What do I think the score will be? I just think because of the form right now, I think because it's a home game, I think United will nick it. It's going to be a close game. Going to be an unbelievably close game, and I think United will just nick it. So I'm going to go 2-1. I think Spurs will score. I think will score. It wouldn't surprise me if it would be a 2-1, 3-2 again. I think it's going to be around that. I think it's going to be a 2-1, 3-2 to us. Let's see. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Enjoyed tonight. Got a lot off my chest. Good. Look, Ray, mate, as we spoke about today, buddy, I think it's important, mate. You've got to get, that your stuff off of your chest, buddy. I think it's important. Danny, legend, my friend. I hope you're doing extremely well, buddy. Is Carrick Ball a big wake-up call for the big hitters in the Premier League? Harif, no. No. Mate, look, again, I'm not going to disrespect that opinion. if that's a genuine question, I'll give you an answer. This is your show. I try not to come back on it. As you've asked me a question, I'll give you an answer in my view. And just remember, people, this is just my opinion. I'm not calling anyone out here. Do I think that Carrick ball is a wake-up call for the big hitters in the Premier League? No, I don't. Carrick ball doesn't exist, mate. Carrick ball is Ollie ball. I'll tell you what Carrick is, and we'll go through the presser as well. Carrick ball is park the bus and counter-attack FC. That's, mate, it is no more complex than that. And look, maybe I'm doing a disservice, and I'll tell you why it could be different. Is that, look, Michael Carrick doesn't have his players, right? Where Michael Carrick is very, very clever, and where I'll give him his due, irrespective of whether Michael Carrick wanted to play a back three, a back nine, a back two, right? Michael Carrick, what he's doing, and he's doing it extremely well, is playing these players in the positions that they're supposed to play. That is the difference between Amorim and him, is that he's not stupid. He knows, and Amorim wasn't. Amorim was a stubborn fucker, right? Michael Carrick knows what these players are. Michael Carrick has got nothing to lose. If this was Michael Carrick's full-time job, and what I mean is this was his job, would he play in a different way? Possibly. But Michael Carrick is very, very clever in terms of he's playing these players at their own game, and he's playing these players in positions that works. But please don't tell me this is some sort of new thing. It's not, mate. It is not Carrick ball. It is park the bus FC and count. That's all you're going to see, because we're not seeing, all we're seeing different between Michael Carrick and an Amorim system is we're seeing happy players, and the football is more exciting. The football is more exciting because it's end to end. Would I rather watch Carrick ball end to end and either win or lose, or watch Amorim's turgid style of play and win, lose or draw? I'd rather watch Carrick, right? Doesn't mean to say that that's my opinion on an Amorim, but I would rather watch that. But let's not pretend here that this is Michael Carrick ball. It's not. Ollie beat City. Ten Hag beat City twice. Amorim beat them as well. That this is not Carrick ball, mate. It is not a wake-up call. This is not the evolution of Pep ball. This is not the evolution of Klopp ball. This is not Carrick ball. This is park the bus FC, counter-attack. Simple as that, mate. But look, that's my view. Icecape says, United are a cricket team now. They've been relegated to cricket. Do you want Hoyland back? Would I take Hoyland back? Yes. Does Hoyland want to come back? No. Logan, for me, is a bit like saying, if you've got a nice ex and you say, oh, would you take your ex back? And you say, yes, I would take her back tomorrow. And then your ex goes, no thanks, mate. It doesn't really matter. Would I take him back? Yes. Would he come back? Should he come back? Nope. Manu will come second in the league. Logic, mate. Logic pack. Make it make sense. Carrick, Derby, 3-1 United. Carrick played for Spurs, didn't he? Carrick is like R9 these days. Logic, mate. Logic, buddy. I don't know where you're getting R9 and Cunha from, mate. He really isn't, buddy. But look, Mr. Skipon says, what's your feeling versus Spurs? I think that we beat them. I think that we just beat them. Look, I say it because, look, I still don't know what this team is, and people will find it hard to believe that I'm just not like, oh, we're going to win 4-0. You know, we're guaranteed to win. We're not. If you look at the Fulham game, it is very, very close. I think every single game this season until the end of the season is going to be close. I don't think that we're going to walk these teams up. You know, I've spoken to people that think that, you know, the last 3 games we've been perfect. The last 3 games, Casemiro's been prime in every single game. Bruno Fernandes has been amazing in like every single game. They haven't. Like, my feeling is that we beat Spurs. I think we can win the next couple of games, but I'm also still not convinced because I know what I've watched every single game. I know what this team is capable of. This team is capable of a Grimsby at any moment in time. This team is capable of a Burnley at any time, a Brighton, a West Ham, an Everton, a Bournemouth. So I don't know. If I had to guess, so I'm going to guess this based, and this is a guess. I'm guessing it based on form. I'm guessing it based on, I know Spurs have got some more players out. Based on all of that, I think United win, but that's an educated guess. It's not based on performances of the last 3 months. It's based on our current form, and I think Spurs have got injuries as well, so it's based on that. Ray says there's no such thing as Carrick ball. It's clear the players play when they want to. Under Carrick, they play for him. Players, they're down tools when they're not happy, and it's only a matter of time before they do it again. Yes. Ludwig says Amarin was out of his depth. Look, possibly, and that's a conversation that we will have at the back end of the season. There's no point like having it now. I'm not disrespecting the opinion. I don't think you're wrong. That's an opinion, because look, it's an opinion. Selwyn legend. Selwyn is a legend of the channels. Greetings, John. Let's not get carried away. Just enjoy the moment, because exactly the plays will throw the manager under the bus. Selwyn, as always, mate. Legend of the channel. Selwyn always speaks sense. Volcross says, mate, you look like someone. Possibly. Mate, you look like someone. I do. I look like me, mate. Bottom 3 teams in the Premier League will outplay any of the top 3 teams on any day in the world. Amarin was a no one. Arsenal 25-26. Possibly. Players only want to perform when they are happy. As soon as a coach becomes strict, discipline the players. Like football is a foreign sport, and so when I couldn't have said it better myself, I couldn't have summed it up better. And this is what we've got to watch this season. You know, look, the moment, and I said this earlier on in the stream as well. As soon as Carrick becomes full-time coach, if he does, these players will absolutely just stop. Barney says Carrick strikes me as a good manager, but for me, very inexperienced as a manager. Not managed at a big club. It is a pity we've lost big players. Think he could get the best out of Rashford. And Barney, I think that's a very, very logical, and I think that's a very intelligent thing to say, mate. Like I don't think you're wrong. I will go on to the presser as well. There's not a lot. There's not a lot to take out of the presser. To be fair, look, people make videos of it. I mean, look, I did videos a whole hour on the presser. Amarin, for all of his faults, was box office, right? Amarin's pressers were box office, right? Carrick's pressers are fucking boring. Absolutely boring. But look, we will get through that as well. I hate Leeds more than United because they mock the dead. So I hate. Well, fair enough. Carrick may not be loud or big, but he knows what he's doing. Time will tell. What time is it in England? It is 4 minutes to 11. I need to support the team I was born and bred, but half of my family support United. What do you think of Madrid? I think Madrid are a very historical club, very successful club. I think they're very mercenary. Look, there is no doubt that Madrid are the biggest side in the world. A lot of respect. I don't always admire how Madrid do their business. I don't always admire how they do their business. But at the end of the day, the one thing I will always say about Real is this: they act like a big club. If Real Madrid want a player, then guess what they do? They pretty much go and get a player. If there's a player that they really, really, really want, Madrid will get their player. The one thing that I respect about Madrid more than anything else, they are a big club. They act like a big club. I don't always agree with the scruples of Madrid, and I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about the ownership. But look, Madrid. They are the biggest club in the entire world. When Madrid come calling, you go and play for them. So, respect to Madrid. Burnley, Wolves, Everton in the Championship. Hooligans everywhere. I have doctors in my family who never miss a home game. I'm going by Romero's comments on injuries at Spurs. I can't see why United won't win this match. Up the Chelsea, says Jack. Cole Palmer is staying. Look, mate, Jack, there was never any danger of Cole Palmer leaving, buddy. Jack, he was always staying. And he says, what kit? Look, I'm getting this obsession now with kits. Got some fantastic kits. This one, I love this kit. I love it. Love it. Chelsea. Luton. But says we missed the trick with Amrin. I think was very evident that he didn't get the place he needed or was promised to suit his style. Made the best of a shitty situation, and I agree with you, Barney. I would always say before I move over to the Carrick presser. I've always said this. I'll always say this. Ruben Amorim didn't get his players. People can have that view or not. He didn't get his players. We're never going to know, are we? We're never going to know. And it says, text me back that pal. Love the kit, mate. I do have some more on the way as well. I've got the red one on the way as well. I've got another few kits. So I'm pretty much through the sharp kits. I've pretty much now got most of the sharp kits. I'm now going through the Vodafone kits. So Geno says, wow. Who is the most underrated player in your opinion? I would say Kanchelskis. Switch says, how are you, JB? Look, Switch, I'm doing extremely well, buddy, and I hope you are doing extremely well as well. Thank you for being on here. Who is the most underrated player? That's a very, very good question. I would say I'll give you a list of players that I think are underrated just across the world, right? I think that United Road says positive vibes only at the moment. United Road, mate, you're probably on the wrong channel for that, mate. Switch. Dennis Irwin was going to be my number one pick. And again, my list, right, was going to be this. Dennis Irwin, Park, Gary Pallister. What else we got on here? Kanchelskis as well, I think was awesome. Poborski, I don't know about him. I don't know. I thought Kanchelskis was better, but Poborski was one of those players. I don't know. But I thought that in my era, personally, I thought Gary Pallister was underrated in terms of if you look at lists now, the guy was rapid, the guy was awesome. Dennis Irwin, I think, was very, very underrated as well. I think Park was criminally underrated. Who else? I think O'Shea was quite underrated as well, actually. Dennis Irwin didn't have the look. Irwin, yeah. He looked like Mr. Bean. Paul Parker, says Andrew. I love Paul Parker. Brian McClare says, yes. Look, players like Brian McClare, people don't seem to, he was here for a fucking long time. And what I loved about McClare the most was the fact that he was just a guy who wouldn't play for weeks and months, and then he'd come on and play. Like, legend. Andrew, Paul Parker, mate, I'm desperately trying to get Paul Parker onto the show because Paul Parker lives around me somewhere. I've seen Paul Parker up the high street many, many times. I'm trying to get Paul Parker onto the show because he was one of my favourite players, and I want to get Paul Parker on the show. Sabani says the reason why we dominated was for so long because not only had we had fantastic manager and David Gill, who we miss always. Exactly, my friend. What about Fergie's son? Fucking hilarious. Robbie Savage, Pogba, Alan Shearer, Nicky Butt. You know what? I'll give Nicky Butt his dues. Nicky Butt was a very underrated player, actually. I do like Nicky Butt. And Herrera says switch. Steve Bruce, best player not play for England. I agree with you. Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce was quality. I mean, Steve Bruce would stick his face onto anything. Steve Bruce would literally head of the world. Like, quality player. Pogba, I don't think Pogba was underrated at all. If anything, I'm going to maybe be the guy who's, on his own in this one. I think Pogba was overrated. I don't think Pogba was all that. I think on his day, I think Pogba could do things that were phenomenal. But I think that Pogba was one of these players who was overrated. I do. That's my view. Kevin Phillips, Giggs, Scholes, King, Beckham, best midfield of all time. Sparky was unbelievable at times. Look, Sparky was my favourite player. Sparky is my hero. I love Sparky. Fantastic player. You getting Spider-Man on the show? Mate, I'd have anybody on this show, buddy. But nobody's gonna come on the show, mate. Nicky Butt had no shoulders, just arms. Louis Saha, I loved a bit Louis Saha. Sheringham got more hype, but York and Cole was so much better. Would you take Salah from Liverpool? Nope. Ian Wright. Ian Rush. Ian Rush. I'm Welsh. Ian Rush, but Nicky T. I love Sparky. Sparky's my hero. Just absolute. Sparky was quality. So look, the presser. Let's go over the Carrick's presser today. One of the things, Lee Sharp as well. I did like Lee Sharp. Pogba was poor in terms of attitude, waste of potential at the club. He threw his toys out the pram. When Fergie wouldn't play him, he was very mad after the expensive Pogback. Blomqvist was quite underrated. Loved watching him. Blomqvist as well. Jesper Blomqvist. Look, Jesper Blomqvist, treble-winning Blomqvist. Your Welsh, would you say Southall is one of the best goalkeepers you've seen in your 100%? Neville Southall was absolutely quality. I remember when he played for the Toffees, right? Neville Southall was one of the very first goalkeepers I had in my Premier League FPL. So when Premier League fantasy football started. I think it was 90. Oh, maybe 93. I can't remember if it started when the Premier League founded, but I remember playing one of the very first fantasy Premier Leagues, and Neville Southall was my very first keeper. Absolute legend. I loved him. He was awesome. I've seen Bell live. Absolute quality. Mouth for Gordon Strachan, Remy Moses. Bell didn't get the credit at Madrid. I think the problem with Bale, I think the reason why he didn't get the love, and you can correct me here, is that I think Gareth Bale was just too, like, it was just too clean cut. I think Bale was just too. I think Bale was just too. He just wasn't passionate enough. I think Bale just wasn't. I think it strikes me that I think Madrid and Spanish fans are very, very passionate, right? Spanish, very, very passionate. Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, very, very emotional, very, very emotional, right? And I think they need to feel. I think they need to feel that passion. Also, I think Gareth Bale wasn't prime Gareth Bale for more than 2 seasons. I think. Correct me. I think Bale was probably prime Bale for maybe 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons. I don't think he was like prime Bale for like 4 years or 5 years. I think Bale was prime Bale for such a short time. But you look at what he did in that final. You look at that goal that he scored. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. And Nicaragua, I agree with you, mate. Bale was, at one point, Bale was the best player in the world, and it was. I mean, that overhead kick was just unreal. Just what a player. One of those players that was absolutely world class. What's better, Rooney or Bales? I think it's difficult, right? Because I think that Bales was better on the basis it was in a Champions League final. To do that in a Champions League final takes some belief. From that far out, right? To do that in a Champions League final when you're being, because he came on as a sub, didn't he? But I'm with logic on that one. I think Rooney's was audacious, and I think Rooney's one is one of the iconic Premier League goals, right? But I think that Gareth Bale's, like, the magnitude, as you say, of what it was, I think that makes it better. But Rooney's one was just, it was dirty, wasn't it? It was just absolutely Rooney at his best. So, but both phenomenal. I think both iconic. What else are we saying in here? From a left back to one of the most. Bale was unbelievable. I remember when he played against Inter Milan, and he basically destroyed Inter Milan on his own. When you talk about Bale dragging Wales to a semi-final of the Euros, Bale had a fantastic career. Bale was just. I just think he was a phenomenal athlete. Barney says Bale never forgot his roots, and in my opinion, Madrid wasn't the right club for him. Fans were awful towards him, and so was Zidane. Should have signed for Barca after his treatment. I always found that even if players are performing at Madrid, the fans are very much divided, like who likes Marmite and Vinicius Jr. is getting the same treatment that Bell got. Agree with your logic. Harry Maguire, the GOAT. Ronaldo said Bell's one step is equivalent to 3 of his. His pace-wise, no one could beat him. And again, Bale, I think Gareth Bale, I think to go back to what I can't remember, like who said it, one of the most underrated players is probably Bale. I think Bale as a player, when people think about iconic seasons and best players, I think the difference obviously with Messi and Cristiano is that they did it for a long time. But in those best seasons, Bale was just different. But he was just like a gazelle. He was just a joy to watch, Bale. Fantastic player. Yep. I'm only down on Bale because he destroyed Ireland when he played for Wales. My favourite Bale moment was in the Copa del Rey. Oh my God, Switch. That was unreal. Switch, mate. That was unreal. Yes, Switch. I watched that game live, and I remember him thinking, "Oh, what is he doing?" As you said, he ran off the pitch. Unbelievable goal. Rooney was off his shin pad. Better goal was the volley against Newcastle. Oh my God. You guys are putting in some bangers now. I mean, that goal that he scored, and he was pissed off as well, wasn't he? And he absolutely smashed it into the back of the net. Peter, agree, buddy. Bell's pace, finishing was triple threat. Loved him. Would have been perfect. A United player. Chunk, agree with you, buddy. I always thought Bell was a United player. For some reason, it never happened. Jamie Vardy. A few of the Barcelona channels says that Rafa is better than Gareth Bale. Oh, fucking hell. Sometimes people can be so biased against players because they and look, I get it. The history, but sometimes opinions are just wrong, right? Look, I'm always for opinion. I won't disrespect your opinion. If you've got an opinion, I will read it out, unless it's obviously racist or rude, But I genuinely respect people's comments, right? But in life, people are entitled to their comment. Just because we don't think along the same lines doesn't mean that you're wrong and I'm right, or I'm right and you're wrong. But in life, there are just some things that are wrong, right? Gareth Bale is better than Rafa. Like, you need to take your blinkers off. And if Barcelona channel thinks that people can be extremely blinkered, but that's life, right? I don't think he was underrated. He was world class in the end. I think he completely fell out of love with the game whilst at Madrid, and he prioritised golf instead. Still a legend though. Sheer temper. That might be your opinion. What ball was never less talented or less skillful than Rafa? What did I miss? Says legend, mate. I hope you're doing extremely well, Brown Knight. That's not me saying Obertan was better than Ronaldo. Obertan, Jesus Christ. I remember when we signed him, I was walking through a shopping centre when we signed him. We signed him from, did we sign Obertan from Bordeaux? Or who did we sign him from? Was it Auxerre or Bordeaux or some shit? And I remember when we signed him, and people were saying he's the next big thing, he's the next big this. Bale made 200 million quid by the time he was 33, more than 99% of footballers ever. Exactly. Isn't Flamini? Flamini actually is a billionaire, isn't he? Flamini did an eco-friendly company thing, didn't he? And now he's like a billionaire. See, this is the one blue shirt I like. Obertan did better at Newcastle. Yeah, he did. So let's get on to the presser. I wanted just to go through the presser as well. Look, what I'm going to say immediately from the outset. Look, Michael Carrick. I like Michael Carrick. Right now, I always thought Amarin was box office. Right. So whenever I would do a video, I would normally do a video just on the presser itself, right? I would go and write things down. Do I remember Mame Briam Diouf? Yes. I do. Amrin was press conference, right? Was box office. So I would sit there. I've got a special tool. I would record it, print it off, read it out, right? Because Amrin was such box office, the media you would know were out to get him, would give him difficult questions. The way that Amrin would respond. I miss Amrin's conferences. I do. I don't miss the ones towards the back end where he was just pissed off and he couldn't care. But those pressers were box offices. You could do a whole show on an Amrin presser, right? Michael Carrick. If Mason Greenwood didn't F up, would he have been Class A United? Probably. It's difficult to say. Look, Mason Greenwood, there is no doubt that he's a fantastic player. Blake Stoneman says, black and white, mate. Blake, mate, welcome to the channel, buddy. I hope you're doing extremely well, mate. Carrick feels like a safe option in the press conference wise. I like how United stopped Keane from talking to him. And you're right. Like Michael Carrick, like I've listened to him a couple of times now. He doesn't annoy me. I think he speaks well. Carrick doesn't come across to me like how I want a first class coach to speak. I'm not saying he speaks. He's very well spoken. He speaks extremely well. He speaks better than I do. He's a very assured guy, very accomplished guy. I'm not talking about the way that he speaks. It's just, for me, Michael Carrick is just not it. I don't get inspired by him. I'm sure the plays behind, particularly when you're being told how amazing you are. It's just, for me, Carrick just feels like he's one of the mates. The way that Carrick talks about the boys, the boys are happy, the boys are this, the boys are that. I don't want to hear that from my coach. Look, most of the managers will say that now, my boys, the guys, etc. Amarin said the same thing. I'm not going to be a hypocrite, right? I didn't like it, and I called Amarin out for saying that as well. When you're talking about Amarin was like in awe of Bruno Fernandes, right? I'm not a fan of it. I don't. Before I go into the chats, short term, I've got no problem with it. Michael Carrick, inspiring players, fine. I get that. Like I've got no problem. Look, I can't have a problem, which I don't, with somebody who's getting a tune out of these players. That is, I've got to say, what a fantastic job he is doing there. But I need something more. I do. Like, he can look. The highlights of the pressers were basically that Mason Mount is near. Britannia says good night, mate. I hope you have a good evening. The highlights were, the talking points were, is that Mason Mount could play. He's not fit. De Ligt is out for quite some time. Those are the main talking points. Is it nice to listen to a presser where you're not worried about the coach, you're not concerned that the media are going to try to dig him out? No, we're not concerned about Kobe Manu's situation. We what Carrick has done, which I do like, is he's steadied the ship, right? So the ship is now steady. So look, the criticism. Look, I've got nothing bad to say about him. you can't criticise a guy who's been jumped in with his set players in a situation who's doing fantastically well. I've got nothing but respect for him. I think he's doing a cracking job, and long may it continue. There's just not a lot to talk about, and that's not a bad thing. There just isn't really much to talk about. So now I'm pleased in one way. I do like the fact that Carrick is a steady pair of hands. But if I'm asked if I get the aura of a big coach, or a coach that I would necessarily want long term, difficult to say. But look, in terms of the presser, again, Carrick is very, very much the sky is blue, the grass is green, water's wet, fire's hot. And what I mean is it's the obvious. You're not going to get anything more than that. He was talking about Thomas Frank, basically saying again, how the boys need to keep their head on the ground, they need to keep their feet on the ground. And look, there is nothing to complain about. I'm literally just giving you the presser stuff. There's nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about either. So there is literally nothing more to say now. So look, I think look, I've given negativity enough about this club, but look, the positivity that I can give tonight are two things. Number one, Carrick is doing a great job. Like, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. Doesn't mean I want him as the long-time coach. I don't believe Carrick ball. I don't believe all this stuff. But 100% tonight, Michael Carrick is doing a fantastic job. So, massive respect for him. He comes out to the pressers. I think the players have bought in to him as well, and he is the guy that's going to lead the charge. So, Michael Carrick this season, I don't think there's anything that he can really do wrong this season. I just hope that the players can continue and hope that we can get into the Champions League. Let me go through some of your chats before I go. Blah 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 blah. Let's have a little look. Carrick feels like a safe pair of hands. Do you think Saudi will ever get their hands on United? I think, Peter, that they're trying to, mate. I do. I think that they are. That is their attempt. I feel like the new man, a man just helping the team improve more and more. So I like him to succeed. With Carrick, Sully legend. With Carrick, we just have to see how he faces the coming challenges and tactical ability. Amrin, his credit said he's not going to speak of United fallout until after the season ends. I pray the day it never comes. If you think getting rid of the Glazers is hard, try getting out of their thumb. Greenwood got done dirty. He was a young lad, messed up. He's still with his partner now and has a couple of kids. United sold him out so they don't face the backlash. I think Barney, mate. I think it's a difficult one, Barney. I think look. I think Barney. I think is one of those ones where I think people have their opinion on. And look, Barney, if that's your view, buddy, I think people are gonna have their views on it. Look, I think Greenwood at the end of the day, whether or not it's right, whether or not it's wrong, whether people think he did good or bad, the end of the day, Greenwood shouldn't have put himself in a position. Greenwood should never have been put in that position by himself. The parties involved of the alleged incident, I question what they were doing. If they were never going to pursue anything, should they have done that? So look, I think that in terms of what's happened, I think that if you're ever going to put yourself in a situation like that, then there are consequences, right? So, you know, look, it's a difficult one. At least the players seem to inspire. I do love how he was talking to Shesko after the last few matches. The players clearly respect him. He's not at a farmers club. He's playing top flight football and scoring goals. It's just Marseille. True, you can't criticise a man when he's doing a good job, but you also can't sign him now. So you need to give him some time to actually do something with the boys. Exactly. Hello, Turkey, Istanbul. If he gets us UEFA Champions League football, he will be even more of a United hero. But he deserves the job. Should be Enrique, in my opinion. But he doesn't deserve the job. It's interesting. It's interesting switch. I mean, I'll continue to say this. You know, there are two things at play here. If you go and get a world-class manager and you're going to get world-class players and you're going to invest in this club by 5 or 6 players, go get a coach, go and get the best you can. If we're not, we're going to get 2 players and continue with this squad. You've got to keep Carrick. Logic. Yeah. I'll let you guys argue that. Carrick ball sounds like a disease. If United don't have any cash, why would Enrique ever consider it? He's lucky. Enrique's not coming, mate. Carrick is a leader. We just don't know it yet. Would you actually want him to stay more in seasons if he gives you a Champions League spot? The problem is, mate, look at Ollie. People make mistakes and God does allow U-turns. We're too big of a club to be giving managers the first full-time appointments. Can't make the same mistake as we did with Ollie, but also I can see where Carrick becomes a top manager. And Big Rig, I think you make a good point, mate. Big Rig, I think, to go back to that point, I think the difficulty for me is, has Ollie Gunnar clouded our judgment? You know, could it be that Carrick is actually what Ollie should have been, or have we actually been, as we always are we a victim of past? I don't know. Not making excuses for him, but I think the grown-ups around Greenwood really let him down. I think Greenwood was let down in many, many ways. Doesn't mean that I agree. United are as big as the Super Bowl. I do agree. I don't think the manager market looks great. So difficult to find someone decent that's not actually somewhere else. United are bigger than the Super Bowl. Sorry to change the subject, but would you give me your opinion about my club, Madrid? Bring back the special one. Mate, I would say to you, don't bring him back. Jose Mourinho, mate, he's a busted flush. Don't bring him back. I wouldn't bring him back. I think Madrid need the problem with Madrid right now, I think, is they need somebody who's a disciplinarian but who's got respect. I think what you need, you've got many big personalities at that club. I think you need to go and get somebody who is a bit older. I don't know who that is. I think the perfect manager for Madrid would be Jurgen Klopp. I do. Carrick and Haaland should stay on the coaching team. That I can agree with you. Shit, Tottenham is bigger than Super Bowl. Greenwood let himself down at anyone. Anyway, change the subject. He's gone exactly. Perez has a low player power for too long. The manager doesn't matter. Tuchel. When are we getting rid of the waste of space? Wilcox has no business at the club. Don't even get me started, Barney. Don't even get me started on that fucking waste of space, mate. Absolute waste of space. It was an absolute waste of space. But look, guys, I am going to go. Fantastic show again. Look, It is a. It is a, you know, Wilcox needs to leave. The Glazers need to leave. What is abundantly clear tonight is we need to purchase this club. One thing I am going to say, there's a ray of light here. The only ray of light that I can offer you is this. Look, if the worst does happen, if the worst happens and we're in a shit bucket of debt, look, I see no other way than this club having to sell. It's life. So I think a chink of light, if we hemorrhage money, and the Glazers can't afford it, so Jim is screwed, then we might have to sell. So I wouldn't rule out a show. I wouldn't rule out a sale. I think something is in the pipeline. I think something is coming, whether it's investment, whether it's a sale. I think towards the summer, I think something is going to happen. So look, let's start this case. So look, tomorrow is the anniversary, Munich, 1958. So look, tomorrow I will do a show tomorrow, but it's going to be a different show tomorrow. It's not going to be on these wasters tomorrow. So look, you know, we'll do a show. I'll do a show tomorrow on, you know, I'll talk about it because I think it's important that some people, they just don't know about it. So look, we'll go through it tomorrow. I think it's important to talk about it tomorrow, to go through it, and look, we'll just have we'll have a chat on it tomorrow. You know, I think it's important to acknowledge it. Am I going to do a minute silence? Yes, 100%. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. I'll do it, and we'll do a show on it, and you know, we'll talk about the heroes. We'll talk about the heroes. You know, we'll talk about what this club means tomorrow. We won't be talking about this shit tomorrow. We'll be talking about a proper team tomorrow. And it was absolutely horrific. So we won't be talking about this current ownership shit tomorrow. We'll be talking about the real heroes tomorrow. So look, guys, legend. Look, guys, you guys, this show does not exist without you guys. So it's a massive thank you from me to you guys. This chat is amazing. It gets better and better every single stream. And look, guys, thank you. It's just a massive thank you from me. Thank you for being here for 5 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Legendary. So look, guys, I will be back tomorrow. We'll do the Munich show tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And we'll give we give our respect to the boys tomorrow. So look, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I'm JB. This is the United Devil channel, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.